Hello, tubers, and we're back playing a little more Black Rose. As you remember, last time I couldn't get past the chapel, so I had to do a little bit of research to figure out what I was doing wrong, and I figured it out. I played through, I got farther, but lost all of my footage from the gameplay. So I am replaying through it for you. Hopefully I will get through it the first time, rather than having to repeat it a bunch of times, but I did learn the secret to getting away from the ghost, which is just keeping away from the ghost. So, here we go, tubers. So literally, all I have to do is just kind of keep walking, keep an eye on the score, make sure she doesn't get ahead of me or too close to me behind. And, scary as all the noises, and the wobbly lights, I should be able to survive this. Should being the operative word. Oop, she got close to me. Oh, we're gonna move a little faster. Where is she? Okay, it only takes a few seconds, and there we go. Now, okay, so the last time I played through, there was more, like, I deleted the data, and things have changed. Like, the security room is all boarded up, and, like, the writing on the wall is gone from one of the rooms. So I'm a bit worried that this is one of those games that, like, saves your progress, and when you do things, it, takes note and remembers. Oh god, I hope it doesn't remember. No! Damn it! Oh, you can't get stuck for a second. One little mess up, one little second and she gets you. Oh, man. Okay. Back to the key with the coffin. We are going to get away from her this time, because we are not going to get stuck going upstairs. We're going to do this right to make the turns. We're going to get back down here, where we can keep away from her very easily. We need to be in here anyways, because that's where the key goes, is in that chest over there. We're just gonna keep running away from Myrtle, because she's like super close. Oh, Myrtle, go away. Go away, Myrtle. Go away, go away, go away, go away, go away. My heart is like thumping in my chest, and I've done this like half a dozen times now. Okay, so now we can unlock this chest with the gold key that we got. And the only way to keep Myrtle in her coffin for good is to lock it. I thought I had locked it before, but either someone must have unlocked it. Either that or the lid was forced open. Take the key labeled Myrtle. Okay, so now we gotta Beat's feet back to Myrtle's coffin and lock her back in, because we have drained her temporarily. She should be back in her coffin, resting up to come kill us. So we gotta get down here and boom, lock it. And now we leave. We leave as fast as we can, because we are not sticking around for Myrtle to get us. Stay in your hole, coffin. Stay in your coffin, Myrtle. Oh, no, 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 no. Come on. Come on. Come on. Oh, God. Stay away from me, Myrtle. How did she get out? No! I got away from her last 2 times. I don't get it. It took me a little bit, but I had to reset the game to go back and play level 1 again because I did beat it before, and apparently by just erasing the data, it set level 1 to a higher level of play that I was not able to beat, so I had to close out and go back into the game to get to reset back to actually normal. So I got past Myrtle, and since we're playing story mode, this is where we actually get into some of the story. So, here's our first note. Oh, I gotta get closer. I'm not asking you to speak... Oh, wait, see. I'm not asking you to speak to me, but I made something for you today. At first, I thought about going out and picking you the prettiest flowers I could find, but decided not to. Flowers are beautiful, but eventually they all die. Instead, I made you this origami rose. Paper will never wither, just like my love for you. This rose is black because what we once shared is gone. It is lost in the darkness. There is no ignoring that. However, even if this love is no longer mutual, there is still one side that will never die. This rose is our symbol. Somebody's really in love. Hey, and that door's open.
Full system lockdown enabled.
Wow, that's some serious lockdown. Alright. Oh, we have the visitor room 1 key right now. That was something we picked up when we locked up Myrtle, was we got visitor rooms first
Ever
key.
since my first day working here, I felt a little strange. Now, after what happened that day, things seem to be getting even stranger. I'd even go so far as to say creepy.
You mean like haunted?
I've been an embalmer for years now, and I'm very passionate about my job. I've always felt comfortable with what I do, so it's pretty unusual that I feel this way. 2 of my colleagues have died. I had to embalm them both. However, grief can't explain this feeling. Up until just 4 days ago, I hadn't even known about the history of this funeral home. I already knew that it was ridiculously old, but what I didn't know was that it allegedly harbors some kind of powerful aura which traps and torments the spirits of people who have died in a state of grief or fear, and have at some point been associated with the building in one way or another. These associations apparently include those occurring post-mortem, such as embalmings and funerals.
So anybody buried here gets stuck here forever as a spirit. Or anybody who comes here for a funeral. Alright, so we're still unable to... Did you see that? Whew. I don't know what it is about these ghosty things, but they just give me the friggin' willies. Boss says never to go to Myrtle's. Okay, we already saw that one. But there's a new one on the board.
Mrs. Raids, please tell your son to stop playing under the tables during funeral services. It's disruptive and upsetting to the grieving families. Today he also stole one of the keys to the visitation room, and was later attempting to open one of the drawers in the morgue. This type of behavior is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. If you do not start controlling him, I will take it upon myself to personally teach him a lesson. Michael.
Well, Michael. What do we got in here? Oh, hey, we can go in here now. Oh, there's another note.
To make things even weirder, this place has a serious lockdown system. Yesterday was
Just
the
locked
first
down.
time I've ever seen it used, and many of the workers, including myself, were ordered to wait in the family room until the situation was taken care of. No one I've spoken to about it knows why it was done, or
never
at
tell where
least
the
they
camera's
won't say.
pointing.
All I know is that these safety glass windows and electronic gates appear to be designed for keeping things in rather than out.
They don't want the crazies getting out into the world. Who can blame them?
I was the first responder that day. was the first and only person to make it to Myrtle's side before she passed away. She managed to give Sullivan a parting "I love you" on that baby monitor, but that was the last communication they ever had. The last thing she ever did was give me that piece of paper. It was a short poem she had written for Sullivan earlier that day. She asked me to give it to him, and I promised her I would. Then she slipped away. I guess Sullivan had picked up by Myrtle's weak rasping in the baby monitor that something was happening to her, because soon after she had passed, he came running into the hall from the upstairs arrangement room. But he was too late. She was gone. That's when he broke down. I'd never seen him show so much emotion towards Myrtle before. Then, of course, the rest happened. I'll keep my promise, even now. It's all I can do for my dear friends.
I don't know what the rest is yet, but I guess we'll find out, because... Oh, that's right. Okay, so that was level 1, and oh my gosh, so freaking frustrating to play this game. And, okay, so I'm going to go through and get to where I got to last time. And we'll see. Last time I got a little bit further, revealed a lot more story. Oh, that reminds me. It always jacks the settings. It turns down the music, it turns down the brightness. Ooh, what's this?
There are a lot of strange things I've seen around this place. For instance, the fireplace that isn't even a real fireplace. It's some kind of ladder shaft, but there's a tough metal grate fastened over it that appears to be controlled electronically, most likely by the lockdown system. I'm assuming the shaft leads down to the basement, but it must have been sealed off because it's not accessible from anywhere down there. Another thing I've started wondering about is a metal handle that's been sitting on Michael's desk for about a month now. I asked about it once out of curiosity, but he avoided giving me a direct answer. He told me it broke off of something. I had already assumed this, seeing as it's covered in dirt and rusted around the edges where it had clearly been attached to something for a very long time. Perhaps the biggest mystery I've encountered here is the place Myrtle always went for privacy. She was often depressed, so she was always going into the downstairs hall on her way to wherever it was she went to be alone. However, she seemed to vanish. The only place she could have gone from that hallway is down into the basement, but I went down there one day to ask her something, and I couldn't find her. I'm wondering if there's a secret room somewhere down there. After all, I did learn from Michael that this building is from the 1600s, long before it was ever a funeral home. Buildings as old as this one sometimes have quite a few secret areas.
I don't want to go back down to the basement, though. I still feel like Myrtle's probably still down there. Alright. Oop, we got another note. Ooh, there's a newspaper down there.
They still haven't buried them. Sullivan has been lying in his coffin now for 2 days, and Myrtle for 3. Because Conrad refused to touch Myrtle's coffin after her funeral, it had to be put aside so Sullivan could have his. Conrad still simply doesn't want to have anything to do with the burial of either of them, even if all he's doing is preparing a future grave without actually touching the coffins. I'm starting to wonder if he had some type of unpleasant encounter with Myrtle and Sullivan's coffins, or he heard some absurd rumor about their corpses. What's sad is that Myrtle and Sullivan don't have relatives who care enough about their burials to actually do something about this. Michael was embarrassed to have to tell all the relatives and friends that the actual burials couldn't be held yet. Even so, none of them objected. Maybe they just didn't see a point in doing so, considering the person they would be doing it for is already gone. I don't know. As far as feeling nervous around coffins, I do get a strange vibe now in the visitation room. The atmosphere in there is starting to feel different.
Myrtle's coffin got moved to
The
the
air
basement.
feels heavier, a little
Sullivan's
bit oppressive
coffin was put
even.
in the visitation
It
room.
seems to be more noticeable today than
left
it was
there.
yesterday. I'm not quite sure if I believe in ghosts or not, but it seems to fit what I've heard before about locations having uncomfortable negative energy due to evil or extremely upset spirits. Maybe it's just normal stuffy air. There aren't any windows in there, and it is the middle of summer.
And there's a corpse in there, so that's gonna smell great. Lovely, lovely corpse smell. Okay, so let's see. I saw a newspaper down in the chapel, and the chapel is down this way, right? Let's go down to... Ooh, look, another note.
It turns out that Devon got into the morgue by stealing Sullivan's key card from the office. Mrs. Raines had been in there and forgot to lock it when she left. Nobody knows exactly how the kid figured out the passcode, but considering what a flake his mother is, that's probably just something else she inadvertently compromised.
He doesn't like Mrs. Raines.
They're burying Sullivan with a few of his belongings from the funeral home. I guess because he had worked here for so long and was so loyal to his job. Michael revealed that one of those belongings is Sullivan's key card. Of course, they would need to deactivate it from the system to avoid any breaches and the chance that it was stolen. But then again, Mrs. Raines would be the one who would do that. I discovered earlier today that Devon had stolen the system lock override key as well and hidden it somewhere in the building. This has got to be the most troublesome, ill-behaved kid I have ever encountered.
It sounds like he spends a lot of time in a morgue, so one's gotta think that's gotta mess with a kid. Anything new in here? Grief-stricken man killed by train after blinding himself. 57-year-old Sullivan James, one of two funeral directors in the Chanmire Hills Funeral Home, was killed Monday after he tripped and fell onto the tracks of an oncoming train. According to his co-workers at the funeral home, James had slipped into a state of grief-stricken hysteria just minutes earlier after experiencing an emotional breakdown over the death of his childhood friend and co-worker Myrtle Van Worth, who had been suffering from severe brain tumor, which doctors had deemed inoperable. Miss Varnworth passed away 9 days after the end of the predicted death date. James, devastated, apparently gouged out his own eyes with a scalpel from the funeral home's preparation room and managed to scramble out a nearby window. I think he was just trying to avoid seeing Myrtle's eyes. Miles Treadman, an embalmer at Miles is the guy writing some of these notes. Miles Treadman, an embalmer at the Chalmers Hills Funeral Home and a short-time co-worker of Mr. James, had begun to chase after the frenzied man through the field behind the building, but they was not able to catch him before he reached a nearby segment of railroad tracks, and tripped and fell down on top of them. Treadman and a few other eyewitnesses reported that James made no attempt to get up, and in grief-stricken, James was killed on impact, the fast-moving train hitting him with such force that he was severed into 3 pieces. It is suspected that by those who knew the man that his fatal episode was driven by guilt for not treating his longtime friend how he believed he should have. This is double tragedy at the Chanmire Hills Funeral Home has sparked a great deal of public interest in the site and has become an attraction for loitering and vandalism among young people. In the 3 days that have passed since the incident, 3 arrests have been made. They have never buried either of them. Both are still here. Oh, they were such cute kids. Oop, there's something written on the back.
They say if you take his rose, he wakes up. That's the only way his coffin will open. I heard that he also tears you into 3 pieces if he catches you. There's something under the table. They won't find it. Ever.
Okay, so we've got a key number 2 to the visitation room. Like I said, we're getting more story this time.
All those attending the funeral service for Sullivan James, please gather in the visitation room.
that's the family room. Okay, for a B-rated game, this thing is pretty dang good. Hey, look, the note moved. Coffin, key. Yeah, I got that. Oh, hey. There's the metal grate and the ladder. Gotcha. Are we ready for this? The little lion things have little eyes that stare at you. That's creepy. Dare you, double dare you. That's one hell of an origami rose, I gotta say. Ooh, gotta do it. Ah, shit.
Sullivan James was blind as a bat. Sullivan James fell down flat. Sullivan James is withered and blue. Sullivan James is coming for you.
Oh, that's freaking creepy. Oh, jeez. Ah! 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 Let me go, 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 let me go. Get away from me, get away from me, get away from me, get away from me. Oh, oh. Oh, oh. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Come on. Get away, 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 get away. Go, 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 go. Ah! That might have been worse than Myrtle. That might have been worse than Myrtle. Okay. Alright, I'm going to end it there because I got to get this to editing and get it out to you. That was a lot of, can I say, heart-palpitating fun? Yes, I can. That was scary and cool, and it's neat to see the extra story in there. Apparently story mode's the harder mode to do. Time mode is supposed to be easier, I guess. I don't know. That's what it says in the instructions, but I'm doing it hard, and I'm doing it mostly blind, and it's kind of cool. It's an interesting... I've never played this kind of a horror reveal-y story type thing like this, so... But that being said, if you liked it, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, go ahead and hit the don't like button. I'm not going to say anything. Leave a comment down below if you think there's something that I missed. Or if you want to see me try something again, I don't know. Or if you can think of another game you'd like to see me get scared by. Until next time for this one, that's all, and thanks for playing with Mr. J. I really gotta play something other than a horror game. At least maybe a horror game that I can fight back.